Did they tell you to stand 3 steps away from the glass? Yes. Come on, be a bit naughty. Come touch the glass. Alright. There's no glass! You've been escaping all this time! Well, there's only one thing for it. I know exactly what I have to do now. Sherlock. You hugged me. I love you. I love you too. You're almost my favourite. Well, that's made me almost want to not put you through all those torturous trials and tribulations that would break you emotionally. Thanks. Now, what happened to Redbeard? Redbeard? He never existed. What? He was a memory you designed to replace me and... Victor. Victor. Yes, I killed him. I put him down a well. Because you wouldn't play with me. My best friend. My best friend!
You killed my best friend! We had chicks! Euros? Euros? Oh well, she was never in the original Arthur Conan Doyle stories anyway.
Oh well, that's the end of that series. Now, how about we get back to doing some proper detective work and mystery solving? Right, let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to my review of Sherlock Series 4, Episode 3, The Final Problem. Oh yeah, I forgot. Last episode, The Lying Detective was based on the short story The Dying Detective, or at least took the title from. This one takes the title from The Final Problem, which the Reichenbach Fall was based off, but it takes plot elements from other stories. And as you can see, I am wearing the same clothes from my review of The Lying Detective, and that's because this review has started recording only a few minutes after I ended recording the Lying Detective review, and I just had a short break in between. A very short break, a few minutes, 2, 3 at most. So let's get started with The Final Problem. After an interesting opener in which a small girl is on a plane where everybody's asleep, and then she gets a phone call from Jim Moriarty. After the titles, we then see Mycroft watching a film in his private theatre at home, when Sherlock and John then scare him into admitting Eurus's existence and that of Sherringfoot, which is the asylum prison institute Euros is being held and has been held since she was a child. So, yeah, Mycroft and the uncle who sent her there, they thought they were doing the right thing, but obviously by this point, they were proven wrong. Instead of getting better, Euros has probably actually gotten worse, thanks to the Institute, and it's probably because of her not having the connection with her family, especially with Sherlock, who she needs the brotherly connection, as we see later on. And so Sherlock, John and Mycroft go to Sherringford to find out how Euros has been getting out, as she was John's psychiatrist and Faith Smith in the last episode, and the woman on the bus in the episode before. And there's even a fan theory that she might even have orchestrated John being put into the bonfire in, what was the episode? The Empty Hearse. However, I think that was Milverton, Charles Augustus Milverton, from his last vow, as he was watching the screens in that episode. And then in his last vow, he said he had men on standby to help, as the clip was showing, and John and Sherlock found out about it. So I think Charles Augustus Milverton orchestrated the John being put into a bonfire bit of that episode. However, I see where people are coming from, because it's just a mysterious force. But Euros is the main villain of this series, like how Moriarty was of Series 2, and background main villain of Series 1. And Milverton was the main villain of Series 3. Of course, you got main villains of each episode or story, but for an overall series, Milverton for the last one, and Euros for this one, and Moriarty for the first two. And soon Sherlock finds out how Euros has been escaping. There's no glass holding her cell, well, at least not at the time when he visits her. So, whoops, it's revealed that Euros has kind of taken over the Institute and has been allowed to exit any time, and has been doing this little scheme since Sherlock got back from the events of his last vow and the Abominable Bride. Not even that, it was before his last vow even ended, with the Moriarty clips, because he had recorded some clips before he died as a kind of a revenge thing or something, to be when Euros obviously played these clips to get everybody afraid, and I don't know, it's part of her plan or something. Because she and Moriarty talked for a bit at some point between Series 1 and Series 2. And they orchestrated the plan, as seen in a clip of the episode. However, I'm not exactly sure what her plan is supposed to be, to be honest. I'm trying to work it out. She's trying to make her family suffer. She's trying to make Mycroft, Sherlock and John suffer. For some reason, she wants brotherly compassion and love from Sherlock, but instead of asking for it or trying to do it in a way that she will get it, like, we never knew each other, can we discuss or hang out or something? Instead, she kind of puts the three of them through torturous, not torturous of the body, more torturous of the mind and emotionally, situations. So, one of her, the guards she has taken over, she puts him with them, and they have to kill one of them in order to kill the guy's, save the guy's wife, who she will kill if they don't, but none of them can bring themselves to killing each other or themselves, except for the guy whose wife's life is at stake, who kills himself because he can't kill any of the others, and none of them could kill each other. So he kills himself, but because none of them could kill each other or themselves, Euros kills the man's wife anyway. Yikes. And that's just a start. What happens next is that they then have to solve a mystery just from a few pictures, some information, and the three suspects of the crime, life at risk. And Sherlock works out who it is, but then Euros kills the other two, the innocent two, and then kills the guilty one to see if there was any difference. And she says no, there wasn't. So then the next trial and tribulation, I should say, is Sherlock has to save Molly's life, otherwise she will be blown up. So he has to say that he loves her, and so she can say that she loves him. If she doesn't say it, then she dies. So Sherlock has to tell her to say it whilst not telling her about the situation they're in, or she will be blown up. And eventually Molly does say it seconds away. Very tensionous scene, and it's revealed there was never a bomb in this area in the first place. Yeah, she was completely fine. And then Sherlock gets really emotionally upset and destroys the coffin that was in the room with them to give them a hint at what they were going to do. He destroys it in an anger rage. Really, really effective scene. Okay, before we get on to the next trial and tribulation, I should point out that they've been in contact with the girl on the plane, and they're trying to help her, but they're only allowed a few minutes at a time, and they have to complete these trials and tribulations to help her. The girl's not exactly being that much helpful. She doesn't exactly say precisely what airports they've been flying to. She just says that they're flying over a city and they're going from holiday to home or the other way or something. And also Sherlock wants to find out about Redbeard, his dog. He wants to find out what happened to him, why did Euros kill him, and where did she put him. The next trial and tribulation, and the last one at the Institute, is Sherlock having to decide whether to kill his brother or his best friend, Mycroft or John. Again, a very tensionous scene. They've all been quite tensionous, but these last two have been especially. And in the end, Sherlock decides he would rather kill himself than either his brother or his best friend. And Euros isn't having any of that, so she just darts him. She leaves Mycroft at the Institute and brings John and Sherlock to their family holiday home, where she puts John down a well and Sherlock in a little room just outside. And then he goes into the house, and Euros reveals that they never had a dog called Redbeard. It was a memory. Sorry, there's some dust around here. It was a memory disguised to replace the memory of Euros and Victor, Sherlock's best friend. And Watson finds bones of Victor, which is, in the flashback, it's revealed that Victor was put down the well and eventually had died between when he was put down the well and when Watson finds the bones. I wouldn't say he drowned, because the well wasn't that deep, but he could have drowned. It was either drowned or starved or something. Probably drowned. In order to save John's life, Sherlock has to find Euros and save her by giving her compassion and love from a brother. And also the girl on the plane thing was all in Euros' mind, so he has to help her save the plane by doing this. Even though the plane doesn't actually exist, it's all in Euros' mind. So in saving Euros, we see her save the plane in her mind. And the flashbacks also give this kind of a nice little comparison with her playing with the little aeroplane toy. And eventually they manage to save Watson. Euros is taken back to Sherringford, and her parents are told what really happened, as Mycroft had told them she had died in a fire, so they wouldn't know about the truth. And then Sherlock decides to go and see her every, I don't know, day, couple of days, week or something, every now and again, and play the violin with her, and then eventually performing to Mycroft and their parents. And they're doing really well. I like to think Sherlock's trying to help her now with the violin playing. So trying to help her get back to normal. And alongside this, Sherlock and John then find another one of Mary's messages before she dies. So like Moriarty, she's been doing this. And she wants them to get back together, well, not back together in a relationship sort of terms, but more of a partnership of solving crimes. In her words, her Baker Street boys. And the last scene is a montage of John and Sherlock solving crimes, or out solving mysteries. And yeah, that's pretty much the end of series 4. No cliffhanger, because we don't know if there's going to be another series yet. Whilst the other 3, they were certain of doing another series. So they had the last series ending on a cliffhanger. So series 1 ended on a cliffhanger that would lead into series 2. So 2 would have Sherlock's death, but then he was revealed he'd be alive, and then they'd have to sort all that out in series 3. Then series 3 had Moriarty's supposed return at the end of that series, which would link into series 4 via the present day scenes in The Abominable Bride. But this one, there is no connecting into series 5, because we don't know if there's going to be a series 5. If there will be, I think this is going to be the format from further on at final season episodes. It's going to pretty much, unless they're certain they're having another series after series 5, they probably won't do another cliffhanger ending. They'll probably just end it normally, which is pretty much a better one. Even though the cliffhanger ones do say, yes, they are definitely coming back, as opposed to, we're not certain yet. So, that was the story. The characters, well, everyone, or at least the emotion-wise, all the characters are pushed to 11. Which is kind of another way of saying it's gone really, really high up. Sherlock is really emotional in some scenes, but that's a good thing because that means he's becoming more of a human being. Unlike Euros, who is basically a human computer, and Mycroft, who's kind of also a little attached from human emotions. And if you were to say intelligence-wise, Sherlock would be the least intelligent of the 3, but because of his emotions and because of Mycroft's actions, and Euros just being a human computer with no or little emotion, Sherlock really is the smartest of the siblings, and just because he's the most human, which then makes us all glad he's our main character, and it's not on the other 2. That being said, Euros is a formidable opponent in the likes of Moriarty, and I think Moriarty's probably she's probably the next best villain after Moriarty. Culverton Smith might come a very close 3rd, and maybe Milverton 4th. I don't know if I can count Irene Adler as a villain. If yes, she might be next. What comes there? What else? Mycroft, yeah, as I said, his decisions seem to be having a bit of a backdrop. They seem to be falling back on him and making him look like, oh no, you made the wrong decision. But he still holds out pretty well, and I like how he's kind of in most of the action for quite a while. How he disguises himself there onto the island instead of Sherlock. And Sherlock becomes the security guard. And Mycroft's the one wearing the disguise. And later he's with Sherlock and John for about most of the trials and tribulations until it's the decision time between one or the other. And then he's just left at Sherringford whilst the final one is on. John is also really good in this one, especially when it comes down to because he's the last one to choose whether to kill someone in the first tribulation, whether to kill the man. I think that's was the task actually. Was it to kill one of them or the man? I think I can't remember. I think it was just killing each other, man included, as opposed to each other or the man. And John couldn't kill a man in cold blood, so that scene was pretty much the peak of the tension. Was when John was almost, by the looks of it, almost about to kill the man whose wife would have been killed if they hadn't. And also very, very tensionous scene where Sherlock has to make this decision. I'm pretty much going over what I said before, but there isn't really much else. The acting is brilliant from all four main cast. I keep saying four main characters: Sherlock, John, Maycroft, and I keep saying Maycroft for some reason, Mycroft, and Euros. Other characters including Man and his wife, like Lestrade, Molly, etc. Everyone does a great job, but the four main cast do a fantastic job, especially the main two leads, who have been fantastic since day one, episode 1, and have just run with it ever since, and they've not slowed down. Yeah. Again, can't really talk much without talking about the story or going over what I've said. I will say, I don't know how the voice of the little girl, how Sherlock, John, and Mycroft could hear her if it was all in Euros's mind. It's a bit like a Sign of the Daleks in Doctor Who, where Osgood is talking to the characters in her normal voice, but then it's revealed that she is a Dalek. She has been turned into a Dalek, and when she talks in her head, she is human, but when she talks to others, she is a Dalek, at least when the Doctor meets her. So it's a bit confusing when she can talk to the other characters and she sounds human, even though she should sound like a Dalek. It's a bit confusing. Oh well. So it's a bit like that because it's all in Euros's head, but the others can hear the little girl. Unless it's another recording, not exactly certain. We don't actually reveal how John survived being shot or tranquilised and at the end of the last episode, especially as that one actually transitions into a screen of blood, I think it was. I think it did, and yeah, it's a little bit confusing at some points, but some great scenes all the same, and some great moments. It's a really tensionous-filled series finale, and great moments. It might not be everyone's taste. Probably a bit more than Six Thatchers was, but still, some confusing things, and it's not exactly typical Sherlock, it's more dramatised Sherlock. In fact, this is pretty much the most unique episode of the series, and also the least mystery solving. So, in conclusion, the final problem is a brilliant episode, even if it's the least Sherlocky of the show, and it's really, really intelligent, really, really intense, fantastic performances. However, it's not exactly perfect. There's a few flaws. It's great, but yeah. Oh, and Moriarty isn't dead, by the way. We see him, as well as the video clips, we see him in a scene that took place about 5 years before, as I mentioned, between series 1 and 2. That's 5 years, so 2017 would be 2012. I think that's right. Yeah, that's right. So maybe just before the events of series 2, or at least Riding Back Fall, at least. So they set up this little trap, and yeah, so Moriarty has not survived Riding Back Fall, at least not as far as we're aware, even though the series 3 cliffhanger was that Moriarty had survived, even though Abominable Bride said he hadn't. and we're all glad that we got told what happened in this episode. Because they basically ignored it for the first one, and they never mentioned it for the second. So, to have the truth finally revealed, great. So, that was the final problem, and I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Yeah, it's not perfect, but it's still brilliant. I should also mention that this is I think it's the first Sherlock episode to be shown in cinemas. I didn't watch it at the cinema, I watched it at home, like with Dave the Doctor and Deep Breath, which Doctor Who ones. But it was shown at the cinema, and surprisingly, I noticed it had been given a 15 rating on the poster. Was it the poster? It was certainly on the little leaflet. It was the day after I saw Moana, so I noticed it on the little leaflet, and yeah, and on the DVD it's a 15. Of course, it's the second episode to get a 15 after The Abominable Bride, apparently, although that might be for extras, I'm not certain. I think it is a 15, that one though. Not sure why. I think this one definitely is very close, if not is a 15 story. This is UK certification and Ireland. UK and Ireland certifications, they're both 15s. I don't know what Ireland ones the series 1 to 3 are, but series 1 to 3 and the first 2 episodes of series 4 are 12 in the UK. Maybe they're 15s in Ireland as well? Those 3 series, I wouldn't be surprised. Actually, I don't even know. Well, but yeah, 15 episodes of 13, and the rest of 12. Maybe Happy Returns might be a PG. It's not you, there's a swear word in it. So yeah, that's it for the final problem, and for now, Sherlock. But if Sherlock will return, Sherlock will return in Series 5. If there's going to be a Series 5. Thank you guys for listening, and I will now do my ranking video. I say now. Maybe not immediately, because I've got to wrap this up quickly, and then I'll get around to do it in a second or a minute or something. Maybe there'll be a lunch break or something. Recording-wise, at least. For editing and putting up-wise, it might be a few days. Okay, I'll see you guys next time. And as you can see, I am wearing the same clothes from my review from the last one. And as you can see, I am wearing the same clothes as I did in my review of The Lying Detective. That's because this review has started not too long after the Lying Detective one ended, like 2, 3, 4 minutes gap, maybe 5. No, it was a few minutes gap. And as you can see, I'm wearing the same clothes as I did in the Lying Detective review, and that's because this review has started like only a few minutes after I ended the review of the Lying Detective. I just had a pee break. That's not going to be in it. Okay. And as you can after, and I should probably point out around this point that there is the guy. Okay, before we get on to the next Tron tripulation, I should point out that there was a... I should point... Where did Euros find... Where does Euros... No. The last Tron trip... She leaves Moriarty... Sorry. She leaves Maycroft... and so Sherlock eventually then showing in the last few scenes Sherlock would be, and you're just being a computer. He's actually and he can have the compassion, and also very, very tensionous between. But then it's revealed that anything she said is in her normal. But when she's talking, so it's a bit confusing how she can talk to the other when she can talk, unless it's a recording from one of the characters. Episode 2 never reveals that show. Sorry, episode. Oh, and people who are glad Moriarty. So they set off. Was that Moriarty, and we're glad we got told what was going on in this review. Sorry, and we're glad, and not perfect, but it's great, and yes, it's great. What was I going to talk about afterwards? Oh yeah, this is the second Sherlock episode. To see? Oh yeah, and these and the last two episodes of series 4 are not.